You're listening to the Sanditon Chronicles, where we talk all things Sanditon and Sanditon adjacent. Come along with us as we dissect all of your favorite characters, scenes, and dialogue. We have so much to tell you.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Sanditon Chronicles. I'm Maureen.
And I'm Janice.
And we're back with another episode, breaking down some of your favorite characters in the Sanditon series. We are talking this week, as promised, about the Montroses, and I think they were a delightful addition to Sanditon. I think that they brought spunk and they brought wit, and not that it was lacking it before, but they were all so entertaining to watch on the screen. Even the mother was entertaining to watch.
I would say especially the mother, but I do agree, and I think, as I think we said before, that Lydia definitely took Esther's spot in the sarcastic comments section, witty and sarcastic.
Yes.
I loved her. It's interesting when they arrived, we find out they've just been in Bath and evidently there'd been some kind of scandal.
Yes.
And then it becomes obvious what that scandal probably was.
Especially since it involved the son.
Yeah, and he's so funny when she says, hopefully we've left all that behind, and he says, well, I'm sure I packed it in my luggage. I packed my reputation in my luggage. Anyway, and it didn't take him long to get back into that.
No, and I think in his defense, he wasn't even really looking for it. I mean, I don't think he enjoyed that aspect of his character. I think that it's pretty clear that he felt a lot of shame about it, as would have been standard for that time period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it made him a little more endearing that he wasn't trying to do anything negative. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. It was just...
He was trying to hide it to be...
Exactly.
Right. To the extent that his mother at one point said, I thought this was a phase you'd outgrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, we know that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
But and it becomes the excuse for the bond that Georgiana and Lord Harry Montrose was... he definitely worked out something with Georgiana. I mean, what she had observed led to them having this agreement, and she understood what he was going through from a slightly different angle, but still, as someone who wasn't entirely accepted, just like she wasn't entirely accepted. So it's interesting that they had that in common, and interesting that the other person who really understood her was Arthur, but that's sort of a little aside. But I saw they did one of those behind the scenes, a little video of the actress who plays Lady Montrose and Harry, the actor who plays Harry, singing and dancing during a break.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, and it was really, made me really like her in a way that I couldn't like her character.
Well, yeah.
She's very good at playing somebody you didn't really like, who was very surface, no depth.
It's like Jack Fox. I mean, he's very good at playing a character we don't like. That's the sign of you're good at your job, that you're a delightful person in real life, but in character, we kind of want you gone.
Yeah. And I really love obviously the relationship between Lydia and Harry. They're very close, and she understands him a lot, and he accepts also her situation and what she's going through with her mother, which definitely is, a mother who is worried about only finding matches for her children, and mostly about finding money for them. If they didn't need money, she probably wouldn't even have cared.
I think she would have cared still, because that's a typical mother at that time, wanting everything was about social standing, and that's how you make social standing. That's how you raise your social standing, is by marriage and through money. So I think
but they were lords and ladies already, huh?
Yes, but I mean, it wasn't really a good thing to have a spinster for a daughter, or even it was more fashionable to have a man who was a bachelor than it was to have a daughter who was unmarried.
True, and I think that's all true, but I think she would have been less critical of them and more accepting of who they were and what they wanted if it wasn't for the fact that they had no money because her husband had all wasted it all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think she would have been as exacting. I don't think she would have been as hard on them. And I think her character, Lady Montrose, let's dig into her first. Her character is so complex because right off the bat, you kind of see this snarky lady, right? When they're coming in the carriage and she says all that stuff to Harry. But then she has these moments that are so sweet and so kind, like that when she confronts Harry and she's crying and she reminds him, listen, if you do this, I'm obviously paraphrasing, but you get the gist of what she's saying. She's saying, if you do this, one of the punishments is death. You could die. I can't have you die. And I was so endeared to her in that moment. And she moved me, but then she turned around and bribed Georgiana's mom to go away. Like,
tried to, yeah. Yeah.
Are you wholly bad? Or she's so complex. She's not wholly anything. And a lot of
but even right, a lot of it's about fear and concern about her own well-being, which is, like, why don't you go remarry?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, but she's very much driven by society. I mean, she makes a point of speaking to Lady, what is her name?
Susan,
Lady Susan. Oh. I can't remember her new last name.
De Clement.
Yeah, Lady De Clement. She makes a point of going up and introducing herself and her children. And we met before at Princess Charlotte's, before her demise, at her wedding or something anyway.
But then later on, she's one of the people who is one of the first in Sanditon to snub her completely.
Right. And to repeat rumors about her. And and the minute that Georgiana's, is involved in this court case, she wants her son to abandon her.
Yep.
And I love the way Lydia says, if anything, I think that it makes him more interested. And he's, he said something about, yes, poverty is very
an aphrodisiac.
An aphrodisiac. Yeah. Something along those lines. But yeah, it was something. It was I think she was always looking out for herself, even the thought that her son might get in trouble. And that was all about what would happen to her and her reputation. And I'm not saying that she didn't care for him at all, but that wasn't ultimately what she was concerned about.
No, I think there's layers to her though. I think she's a narcissist. I think her number one is always going to be her, but I think that within that, she can also find it in herself to be upset when her children fall or they fall short or they're something is threatening them. She can find it at the same time while still worrying out for herself. Most can still find it in her to be upset over what's happening to her children that's negative or bad or wrong.
Right.
And you get the sense that she's been like this a long time because Lydia and Harry, not even fazed by her outbursts.
No, and in fact, one wonders why they stay with her, but
I mean, she's unmarried. Where's she going to go?
Right.
And he doesn't have anybody that he can be public with.
Right.
And she's still Lady Montrose, so she still has some pull and some sway. True.
And just the way she is with her daughter makes me nuts. But I love her daughter is like, I love when one of my favorite lines is when she says, I can never tell if you're insulting me or complimenting me. That was spot on, it's so true too. Well, I can tell you she was not complimenting you.
No, usually not.
No. Yeah,
those are all things that Lady Montrose would be complimented by. Like she personally would take it as a compliment when that's something that Lydia would see as a detriment. But this isn't a good, like she doesn't see it as anything that's good or decent or something to strive for, but Lady Montrose would see it as something that is good for her, a compliment.
Right. And I also just really love how Lady Lydia is like so sharp. And she picks picks out all the ironies with her mother, how she's giving advice, but advice that she's never taken for herself.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's really, and the way she says it, so that her mother doesn't really have a clue about what's going on in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
and there's even, I mean, one of my favorite lines that Lydia says, and this is where she's saying that when Lady Montrose says that, I can never tell if you're complimenting or insulting me. She does say, Lydia says right before that, you have taught us everything, mother, which is why we're the way we are.
Exactly.
And that's the perfect way to describe their relationship.
Yes. Yeah. They've just learned from her, although it's a miracle that they both turned out to be better people, really. Mm-hmm. I think both of them are better people. I think they have a genuine relationships. They're sincere.
Absolutely.
And their mother is not sincere in any way. And that whole thing when finally Georgiana finds out what happened with her mother about the bribery, and she confronts Lady Montrose about it, and she starts lying, and even her kids go, come on, mother, this is not what you did, quit denying it. And then after Georgiana leaves and Harry gets up and follows her in the other room, she pockets that money, and you see the look on Lydia's face, like, of course she is, she doesn't even have the decency not to take it back. Yep. That was made it so clear who she was and what she was really about.
Exactly. And that was why, I mean, even when Lydia would talk about her match that was deemed not a good match by her mother, it was, she never did she say, I was chastened, or never did she say I was wrong or I made a mistake. It was always, mother saw fit to end it. Right. Before I got too far in or something. I'm paraphrasing that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing this. In episode 1 where they're talking in there, and that's how we hear that she had a broken engagement of sorts, that the mother didn't deem the match worthy enough. And Lydia is saying, mother saw fit to end it. But then there's these moments of what is the word I'm looking for? Where she bucks against her mom.
Right. Well, like when she says that she had found a way to rebels. Yeah, she rebels. But she does it sort of silently. Yeah. She maintains what she says to Georgiana is she's found a way to maintain her independence.
Yes. And she says that on the eve of running away to be with this dude.
She had formed an engagement. We don't exactly know what all's going to happen, but because they don't tell us that, but that's the impression you get. Is that,
well, didn't Colburn say that?
No, she just said she's marrying this other person who she's been seeing for a while, but he didn't say she was running away. I don't think.
No, he didn't say she ran away, but I think that the way that they had laid it out, I think we were led to believe that she had gone off to go be with him.
Oh, yeah, I that was not how I interpreted it, but that's all right. But it was soon going to happen. That's how I thought about it, is that she was soon going to be gone. That she had made an engagement with somebody else, which obviously she may have revealed that to him when they were out riding, because I'm sure the mother was not along for that ride. I can't
know.
On a horse. That relationship was very interesting, and I do wish the story continued so I'd know what happened.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely. I'm looking up some scripts to see some of my favorite lines that are in here. I'm looking up episode 2 and episode 6 specifically. And this is one where was that not a most peculiar dinner last night? Yes. I suspect Mrs. Parker took ill purely to spite you. And then
everything was about her.
Yes.
When Georgiana was in that trial, she took that as somehow against her.
Exactly. And this is Harry speaking, but yes, that's exactly it. Everything was about her. And she even said, she doesn't even say anything to deny that. She says, no, before that. Like, then She goes on to say, I'm afraid I found your so-called mother-in-law to be rather disconcerting, Harry. So she's, even though she just tried to bribe Georgiana's mom, she's trying to plant these seeds in Harry to be like, yeah, something's off with her. So that when she would eventually go away, in her mind, it would all make sense. It would all play out together. So she's very devious in that way, where she's planting seeds of things that don't even exist so that she can come out the victor.
Yes, yeah, very definitely. And she is so proud and then so upset with them. Like she's responsible for the fact that they have this agreement, or this, well, they don't understand. She doesn't know what the agreement is between Harry and Georgiana. But she's real proud of the fact that she's taking credit for Harry being, involved with Georgiana. And the same thing with Lydia and Xander. She's like, it's all her doing. Everything good that's happened is her. She gets credit for in her head.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is hard to swallow. And she kind of really, I mean, I have to say again, I think her motivations weren't good or pure, but I have to say she's very nice to Georgiana when she takes her out of that room where everybody's talking about her.
Yeah.
Out of the meeting rooms where had the tea was, and she appears to not have anything against her because of her race. I mean, obviously the money overrides the race.
Yeah. In the same way that Lady Denham tried to push Edward to be with Georgiana in season 1.
Right, exactly. Except for that was very short-lived, obviously.
Yeah. Because Georgiana's no dummy.
Yeah, that's right. And she's certainly, Lady Montrose isn't aware of why Georgiana has taken up with Harry.
No, I think that she genuinely thinks this is proof that I think Lady Montrose is very good at, not only does she set up these deceptions so everyone else will see her as a victor, but she starts to believe her own deceptions. And I think she genuinely thought, oh, this proves that was absolutely right. This was just the face of Harry. See, he is in love with this girl already. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. Of course, when she's asked point blank about, when Georgiana's asked, do you love him? Lady Montrose says love can grow, or love doesn't have to be right away or immediate. So, I mean, she's not so much concerned with that aspect in her mind. And I likely has to do with a lot of how she was raised. Money is what gets you happiness.
Right.
Nothing else comes of love in a marriage. It has to be a business arrangement. There's no use in arranging a love marriage or love relationship of any kind because it's not useful. It doesn't benefit you. And so that's where she's coming from, which has just built her into this crazy narcissist. And how her kids have turned out so well despite that is beyond me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a miracle. Who knows? Maybe her husband spent all that money because he was trying to get away from her. I don't know.
This is so the scene when they first come in, Lydia says, look, Harry, is it not charming? And he says, perfectly quaint. And that's when Lady Montrose says, this is irrelevant. We're not here to admire the view. So Lady Montrose says, I will not. Oh, wait, here's what Lydia says to her. Okay. So he says, fear not, mother. I am the soul of discretion. Your only purpose here, she says, is to restore our wealth by finding a wife and producing a son and heir. And he says, I knew there was something I had to do.
I know. He has great lines. Both of the kids have great lines.
They do. And Lady Montrose says, I will not be mocked. And Lydia looks at him and says, mother will not be mocked.
Yeah, I know. That's a great one too. Yeah, I love their conversations like that. I love the scene, which is in episode 2, where Lydia and her mother arrive to go horseback riding with Xander, and
he's not there.
He's gone, to find Samuel, and the kids greet her, and especially
I had that conversation pulled up actually right now.
Oh yeah, and anyway, so Augusta's reaction is it must have slipped his mind because he's not here, that they had an appointment, which she was very proud of when they came up, when the Lady Montrose did. And then Leo shows up with the sword and the uniform and comes up next to Lady Montrose and scares her. And they're like, well, when will he return? And she's like, well, our uncle is often absent, you know.
Mm-hmm. I was waiting for you to finish it. I was following along in the script.
Okay, and they said, well, anyway, so they say that, and then Lydia is very understanding, and the mother is like, don't encourage them. And anyway, then they just, come on, let's go, Lydia. But Lydia has such a great attitude.
Yes. She's laughing and joking the entire time. She's not at all offended. She's not at all put out by these kids. She's in fact bringing herself to their level. She's playing along in this game that she obviously has figured out they're doing. They're trying to get rid of her. She knows it. And she doesn't have romantic interest in Xander anyway. So nothing is lost by this on her.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Even Lady Montrose says in front of them, don't encourage them, Lydia.
Yes.
If you if you want to be with the guy, maybe you could
be nicer to
the
his
kids.
Family. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think Lady Lydia has showed how good she is through and through throughout all of her interactions with her mom. Because even in that scene when Georgiana confronts Lady Montrose with the money, Lydia doesn't say anything, but the look on her face says plenty that she's upset with her mother, like she's disgusted with her mother. And they're even that time when they were in the tea house or the tea room, and we talked about this when we talked about I think we talked about when we talked about the recap, but how it was Georgiana almost like deferred to Lady Montrose, how she kept her head kind of down, where she's used to having her head up and she's very bold and she's courageous. But in front of Lady Montrose, she was almost like hunched, and she would defer to her with her words and defer to her with her body language. Even the expressions on Lydia's face then, when she would watch Georgiana, how she interacted with her mom, it was like she was sad about it. So she was a good person through and through. She did not support her mother's schemes. She did not enjoy her mother's schemes. She, in fact, tried in various ways to warn Georgiana and Harry and even Charlotte when it came to Xander and Charlotte. She tried. It was a weird way, because that was what I couldn't figure out for the longest time. Well, if you weren't interested in Xander, then what were you doing with Charlotte asking those questions? And it wasn't that she was trying to get with Xander. It was that she was trying to kind of probe that relationship.
And also, I think she was just trying to drag her mother along, you know, and continue to deceive her mother about what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really feel that.
And I think that's what Lydia does, is it's just easier to play along. It doesn't hurt anything to play along. It doesn't kill her to play along. She knows her own mind. She has found her ways to be independent, and she knows exactly what to do and how to do it, whether or not her mom says anything. But it's going to be much easier if her mom doesn't say anything.
Okay, so what I want to talk about now is the situation when Charlotte thought that Lydia was engaged to Xander, and that was because of what she, the secret that she told Georgiana, who turned around and told Charlotte, which I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, and,
yeah. And then right after she's told that, they're all at the chapel for Lady D's wedding, and they're outside, and Lady Montrose says, I was just saying how charming this little chapel is. It would hardly do for Harry and Miss Lamb, but it's perfect size for an older bride. I dig at her daughter. I mean, come on.
And then one of the one you hope to marry her off to.
Exactly. And then she says, I wonder if you have such a chapel on your estate, Miss Colburn. And he says, I'm afraid not, Your Grace. Perhaps, and she says, perhaps, oh no, Lydia is the one who said, perhaps you should build one. And so no wonder Charlotte thinks that they really are getting married, because that's what Lydia says, which is, you know, anyway, the fact that she says that, she takes so many opportunities to downgrade her daughter, and no wonder her daughter is so sarcastic and comments. I mean, the other one, the comment that I don't have right in front of me is the one when Mary gets so sick, the dinner they're at, and to celebrate the engagement, right?
Charlotte, it's to meet Agnes.
Right, for Agnes being there, you're right. And also the Montroses, and they're talking about the wedding, the engagement and the wedding. And she is talking about how you have to let go of your children, you have to let them have their wings and all that. And
hot meat kettle.
What's that?
Hot meat kettle.
Exactly. And Lydia's like, oh yes, and yes, just like we have, or just, you followed your advice. Not at all. Yeah.
She said something that was so funny because it was when she said it and Lady Montrose looked at her like, excuse me?
Like she hit the head on the nail about what she was saying in terms of saying one thing and doing another, the advice she's giving to others that she doesn't maintain. I think that was in episode 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm looking that up right now. I found it. She says, and yet Lydia says, how long will you be staying in Sanditon for, Miss Harmon? And she says, as long as I can. Now that I found Georgiana, I'm reluctant to let her out of my sight. And Lady Montrose says, and yet it is so important to let our children spread their wings. That is very much your credo, isn't it, Mother? She says,
not at all. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a little gentle guidance now and again, Lydia. Gentle guidance. There's nothing gentle about that woman's guidance.
No.
Nothing. Everything is passive aggressive or very, very aggressive. Like there's no in between with her. It's one of those things. It's always due to serve another purpose or put someone else down or make someone else feel like they cannot step forward because Lady Montrose has spoken.
Yes. Yeah. And before they have that conversation, and that's when Lady Montrose is like so interested in Miss Haywood returning in Mr. Colburn's carriage. And, she is such a gossip.
Yeah.
So she's asking this of Mr. Starling, who says, that's right, Your Grace. He says, you're a very trusting man, Mr. Starling. She's constantly stirring up trouble. And she says, were they alone? Not alone. Were they not alone? And he says, Miss Markham was with them, at this late hour. How intriguing. I wonder, where can they have been? I wonder, she doesn't care about anybody's well-being. Then it goes on to say, there's a little more important to my mother. This is what Lydia says. There's a little more important to my mother than what Mr. Colburn is doing or thinking. That is because he has a fine house. This is her mother speaking, and you are in need of a husband. I am only thinking of you, Lydia. Is your daughter not at liberty to make her own choice in a marriage? This is what
Miss Harmon says.
Miss Agnes says, right?
Miss Harmon.
Yeah, Miss Harmon says. And Lydia says, if it were left to me, I would be married already, Miss Harmon. But unfortunately, my dear mother saved me from an unpropitious match.
Because we've learned so much about Lydia, because this happens in episode 5, right?
Yeah, 5.
That conversation. And we've learned so much about Lydia just from watching her interactions over the last 5 episodes that we can see the bite that's there. She keeps her upbeat personality, but she puts all the bite that she can muster into that sentence to let her mother know that I have not forgotten what you've done.
Right. And you just know at some point she's going to get out of this. I mean, she's going to wait from her.
Yeah. I will admit that this situation didn't play out the way I thought it would, but the ending was the way I thought it was. I mean, I think we all kind of knew that we all knew Colburn and Charlotte were endgame. But I thought that she was going to try to push Charlotte and Xander together because of her nature, because she just seems so good-hearted and the way she would talk to Charlotte about Xander. But I think that we all knew that she was going to be engaged to this other fellow once we found out he existed.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. And Lydia is, she really is a very kind person. And she was genuine when she was thanking Charlotte for giving her some hints about how to talk with Xander, what to talk about. And Even though you could tell it kind of hurt Charlotte to say it, but yeah, they were an interesting trio.
I did enjoy them. I think that they brought a lot. I think Harry, for as much as Lydia brought, I mean, she took Esther's place with the sarcasm, but where Esther was such dark sarcasm and more negatively inclined, it seemed like Lydia's was more given what we know of her background. It seemed like it was more, I'm going to smile through all this nonsense so I can hide everything I'm doing for you, because if I put on this face and if I act like I'm doing your bidding, you're not going to look too closely at me.
Right. And she was a little more subtle with her sarcasm than, you're right. Esther but given the situation, I mean, her mother, for all her faults, did love her. Mm-hmm. And Edward, I think he just manipulated her, and Absolutely. Esther didn't have anybody before Mark Stanley, before
Babbers, before
Babington, Lord Babington, that truly loved her for who she was.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Edward just manipulated her.
Yes, exactly. And I think with Lydia too, she's lived with her mother enough to know what spots to hit and what spots to leave alone. And although I do agree with you, I think I think Lady Montrose did love her children. I think she only loved them in the only way she could. And as a narcissist and as someone who is very self-serving at every turn, there's not a whole lot of love you can give. But I think she loved them as she could. Right.
But at least Lydia was loved, if only by her brother. I mean, the two of them obviously had a loving relationship and supported each other against all the other stuff that was going on.
Mm-hmm. So I think the relationship between Lydia and Harry, I wish that was explored further. I wish we got more of Lydia, first of all, because I mean, she's amazing, but I wish we would have dug a little deeper into Lydia and Harry's relationship. Obviously, they're brother and sister. Obviously, they have affection for one another. You can see that. But I wanted to focus more on how they would encourage each other throughout their mother's tirades. Because you have to imagine they happen frequently.
Oh, yeah. But the good news is they shared in that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They weren't solely on the receiving end of being manipulated or chastised. It was, and even if the mother didn't know whether that Lydia was being really sarcastic or cutting, he knew.
Yes.
Harry knew. He caught it, and vice versa.
And they did sort of work to distract their mother from the other when she was that's a confusing sentence, so I was just going to word that. If Harry was being attacked, Lydia would speak up and say something insulting almost to get the attention off of Harry onto her. And Harry would do the same for Lydia. And that scene the scene we already talked about, when Lady Montrose is trying to get Harry to drop Georgiana, and Lydia says the thing about being poor as an aphrodisiac. They work together in tandem without even making an effort. It's just such a commonplace thing. It's such a natural thing for them to deflect to themselves to get attention off the other. And that shows a real relationship.
Yeah. And so unlike Esther, who kind of was all alone.
Oh, yeah, she was.
You know, they had each other at the very least, you know, mm-hmm. And they're both good-hearted people.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. Which is why I'm so curious what would happen after this to the two of them, because that story doesn't get wrapped up.
No,
we don't know. I mean, we're sure she's going to get married. We know he's going to be friends with Arthur, but how is the mother going to be supported? Mm-hmm. And, you know, really, how is Harry going to be supported?
And does Harry stay with his mother even beyond this?
Right. You know, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Do you think Lady Montrose would forgive Lydia? Because Lydia would have to elope in order to marry this guy. Mother would not give acceptance, although she's 27. So, I mean,
she's legally able to, yeah.
Yes. But do you think Lady Montrose would forgive Lydia for this, for marrying this man?
If the man had any money and could possibly help support her, then yes, I think she would forgive him.
But what if it's the same guy that her mother had already broken off relationship with, which in my head, that's who it is.
Oh, I don't know. I think that guy probably moved on. It's been long enough that
I like the idea that they defied her mother still and kept that relationship. That's what I like to think.
well, even so, even if she broke off the relationship because it wasn't, maybe it was that not that the person had no money, but they had no position.
Yeah, that's true.
Or it wasn't lots of money.
There's
Obviously,
so many unanswered questions.
yeah. Obviously, whoever she married would have to have enough money to support them, even if he couldn't take on another relative.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
And if it is that same dude, I doubt he would be willing to let Lady Montrose live in that house with him.
And maybe that's why they didn't wrap up the story, because they didn't know how to wrap it up.
Maybe.
You know, now that they've laid this out, what would they do? I mean, you know, where's Harry going to get any money from if he's not marrying a wealthy woman? You know, he obviously can't marry Arthur.
Yeah.
And Arthur does. I mean, they could go somewhere and live together, but Arthur really likes his life there. So they can continue to be friends and be seen just as friends, but
Arthur doesn't want to be hidden away either.
No.
I think what I see, like, this is what is in my head, having happened, because we all know that everybody in this fandom continues to create stories in their head after the season has ended, after the writers have finished their job. We're still running with it. So for me, I think, going off of what Lydia's character has been and how kind and generous she has been, I think that she remained engaged to that guy that the mom thought she broke off their relationship with, because it was a real love story and she refused to let it go. And they made a way, they found a way. I think that it was because he didn't have any money, or enough money, at least, for the mother. And that's why she wanted to break it off. And I do see Harry marrying in the way that he had planned to marry Georgiana, and keeping his lifestyle as it is, and having his new wife have her own lifestyle however she wanted it. I do see him marrying a beard and the wife being okay with it.
Who knows? But that's not very true to Jane Austen. That's why
it's not. But I think
they couldn't conclude it.
Yeah, but I think based on the characters that they've created in this, I think that that's probably what he would do. I think that he likes money as well. I think that he likes his lifestyle, and I think he'll capitulate to his mom to make that lifestyle more permanent.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think that's as much as we can go into in the Montroses and their family without diving into their relationships with other people. So next week, we are going to get more into their relationships, like Harry had with Arthur, and Harry's with Georgiana. We're going to go into Lydia's with Charlotte and Xander, and Lady Montrose's we already talked about her a lot with Agnes, because that was a big portion of Agnes's story.
Well, yeah.
She does have something with Georgiana, and she does have something with Mary. So we're going to dig into those next week. It'll all be in one episode, just like this was. I know it's kind of weird to talk about 3 characters in one episode, but they're so intrinsically together.
Connected. Yeah.
You couldn't separate them. It would have been too difficult to do it separate. Then that would be like 10-minute episodes. So we chose to do them all together. Next week, we'll bring you their relationships. Coming up this season for you, we are going to be bringing you a Mrs. Wheatley breakdown. We're going to be talking about the relationships of Raleigh Price and Lady Denham, and his relationships with the Parkers. So we've still got a lot more content to go over with you. We are going to do a live episode at the end of August. Janice and I are still working on the specific date, but we are going to be doing a live episode. So we do want to welcome 2 of our members to our YouTube channel, Susan Wilson, and I am so sorry if I destroy this name, but Rangahua Tangahu. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. We want to welcome them in. And so what we're going to do in the end of August, August is the 27th through the 31st. It's going to be, our live is going to be in there. We're shooting for the 27th, but Janice and I have to work some things out with our schedule to figure out a time and if that date's going to work for sure. But that is going to be a members only chat. So that's one of the perks you get if you sign up for a monthly membership for $3 is you get a members only live chat. So we're going to do that on that week. We'll let you know more details when we get them. And there will also be another episode that's going out that day. So if you're not a member, you can still catch an episode. You just won't be able to join in the live chat. So That's coming up for you. Make sure you're joining our Facebook group, the Sanditon Chronicles Sanditon Family Fan Club. We are trying to get more active in there. We're trying to get more active on our socials. So join there, start a conversation. There's been a lot of posts coming through lately of articles that people are giving interviews. So I might try to reach out to some and see if maybe they aren't in there, because there's a lot of interviews coming out lately. So we'll give you that. Check out that. And do not forget to subscribe. This is not the same as a membership. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can get our viewership up. So when I do reach out to try to get some of these interviews, people will see, people actually want to hear what they have to say. So don't forget to subscribe there for us. And we do have our memberships available. So check out that membership video. It explains everything for you. And I think that's all we have until next week. So we'll see you real soon. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Are you craving more TSC content? Head on over to our social media accounts. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook group, the Sanditon Chronicles Sanditon Family Fan Club. Also, check out our website, thesanditonchronicles.com. Of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear and what your thoughts are. Email us at the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in every week for new episodes.